Shalom, praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone of one world. Shalom to the brothers doing the work, sharing truth, pushing his word to the four corners. Just gonna do a quick lesson. Really just touching on, like, in the modern age, now in this current time, like, and really intensifying over a period of time, like kicking off from like the 60s, where it's like masculinity's kind of been, ground into nothingness, which, these things have been done intentionally, these things have been purposed by the elites. There's vibrations they push out. Because why? Because, you take that masculinity hostage, then it makes it easier for, everything you're going to kind of do within society to get less resistance. Because when you go into, even when you deal with America, when it was being settled shortly after, you had the whole Wild West kind of era. And even during the times of colonization, where you had these different European countries going around, to Asia, to Africa, to wherever, the way they were getting down, they were utilizing, masculinity to their advantage. They were making use of that to push shit on smash, to bring it under their control. And now we've approached where we've come in a time where, over the process of time, it's basically been taking the fangs out of men and kind of lulling them to sleep and separating them from their nature. To why? Because what they desire is control, a more docile kind of mindset. And when you deal with that traditional masculinity, that's something that's opposing to it. So I'll start with this because it's kind of the bedrock of how it goes. Jeremiah 31:22, it says, "How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding door? For the Lord Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth, a woman shall compass a man." That's something that's been new. Really, you go to the 60s, that's kind of the jumper point. Because you had, in the 60s, the second wave feminism, where it was, women being able to go into the workplace, women being able to be independent, and the main thing was what? The pill. The pill and abortion. Those two things kind of working in tandem allowed women to kind of compete as men within, the work environment to an extent. So and these things is over time, the impact got felt more and more, and that crushed the the traditional unit, that nuclear family as it's called, where it then allows for even more confusion to take place. And these things, it's confusion is part of what the elites desire, what they've been striving for. Because with the confusion, then as the madness intensifies, everyone, and it also lets basically puts men and women in opposition when there's a dynamic where the woman's meant to be under the man and the man's meant to be running things. So that whole dynamic's been thrown in the bin, and then it's instead bumping heads. It's distracting from what else is going down within society. People ain't really looking or paying attention to how they get how their freedoms are being chipped away at one by one. So I read this, Hosea 3:4 says, "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without a teraphim." And one I wanted to kind of home in on is what is without an image. Because as far as, especially for Jake had the process of what? Willie Lynch, where you had the man broken in front of the woman, and then the whole dynamic shifted to where they became matriarchal, where the woman became the head of the household, then the men were broken, and then it was what? A perpetuating cycle of the young boys being broken as well, and being put into a state of obedience to the system, the system of slavery that Esau set up. And these things are, done a spectacular job of breaking down manhood. Because why? Through the generations, it's something that persists even until now. And then you have, just like with, I mentioned the 60s, you have with like divorce courts and whatnot, where primarily you'll have women who get custody over the kids. Most times, in the vast majority of cases, they'll get the custody. So then they're basically setting and putting their vibration over the kids, especially over the young men. And that's why you have, the men raised by women. The scripture says, what menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. So you got all kinds of levels of madness popping up. And then a film that kind of encapsulates that for Jake, for Judah, is with Baby Boy, man, with Tyrese. Where it goes into, the whole messed up psychology of how they're basically in a mindset where their relationship with their mothers is completely fried and frazzled their brains. But hey, these things all come together to basically completely separate and discord Jake from their ancient the ancient men they're meant to have been looking to as examples to live and mold and shape themselves after, to basically have a grasp of manhood. And that's something that, to this day has become more and more distant. The men that are kind of being elevated, entertainers, actors, all these musicians, someone with fame, money, success, they're not even examples to follow after, man. A lot of these guys are degenerates, a lot of these guys are lowlifes, a lot of these guys ain't got any form of morals or standards or scruples. So they're not even someone to mold yourself after behavior-wise. But that's how much of a mess it is. That's the only real options that are out there. So it says, we'll read this, Isaiah 32:2. It says, and a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land. So the man's basically meant to be what? The provider of shelter, the provider of safety within what? The times of trouble, when the winds are blown. Because it says in Revelation what? The winds are being held back. But there's going to be a time when what? The winds of destruction come. The shelter is going to be the men, not just any men, the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. They're the ones who are basically going to be, a guard, a shield against these things to come. So that's why, what's the nature of how these men being built up? What separates them from your average dude, your average guy, your average geezer, your average fella that you got prancing around in the modern time. It's, how they're being built up. Read this, Ecclesiasticus 2:1. It says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart upright and constantly endure. Constantly endure, which is what? To make yourself hard against what? All these temptations, all these tribulations. That's part of the process. It says what? And make not haste in the time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Yeah. Here, you got to cleave unto Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and that's part of the bedrock of what? Those men of the Lord. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. Yeah, so whichever manner, whether it could be your physical state, you could have ailments in your body, where it could be monetary, where it could be hassle or headache you're getting from the family, all kinds of varieties of ways that it could be brought low on this side. You got to take it cheerfully and be like, hey, it's all in the day's work as a man of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Ye that fit, verse 5, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. And that's a big gap between, the modern, form of manhood being molded by current society and what, the examples, those men of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. In the men of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, they're basically being what? Brought through tribulations, trials, through hardships, and it's what? The endurance stage, the basically being able to continue and strive through it and stay in your purpose. That's what results, that's what basically refines you to what? That fine gold. He says what? Believe in him and he will help thee. Order thy way aright and trust him. Ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest ye fall. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. So yeah, it's about what? Fearing the Lord and waiting for his mercy. That's what, because you have to have the faith that, hey, regardless of what trials, what hells you're going to go through, or you're going to have to endure, that, hey, the Lord's basically got you covered, and he's basically putting you on a level of something you're able to manage, that will then result in what? The fruits of you growing off the back of it. And that's how these men are being constructed. That's the difference, because now when you deal with the modern time, everything's about softness. It's going into that womanly spirit of what? Of living in pleasures, abiding in pleasures, seeking to be at ease. That's what's focused. That's the dynamic that everyone's looking for. People are looking to get, an abundance of wealth or fame or something. So they can get a nice house, nice place. Drowning in women, being at ease, man. Having them feed you grapes, drinking cognac, you drinking 1776 era liquors, and having a real good time. That's what's is upheld as the pinnacle of manly accomplishment, but really it's something that comes down to character. That's how these things are constructed. That's how that kind of man is constructed. Isaiah 13 and 12 says, I will make a man more precious than gold, even a man than a golden wedge of Ophir. But yeah, that's what Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is working. That's what he's doing.
A floating hotel.
Sorry, love. I'm in the middle of it. I'll make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than a golden wedge of Ophir. So they're basically what? Being refined into that fine gold, man. That purified gold. All the impurities are being leaked out. All the impurities are being, dredged out, through that trial. Through that, just as when, you watch
I think she likes
any form of ancient blacksmithing, basically purify the metal by heating it, applying a great amount of heat, and then force with the hammer to beat the impurities out. You get metal, you get elements out of the earth, they're not going to be a pure, just like 100% amount of block of like iron or whatever. Or you might be constructing an alloy, and then you want to beat out, a certain amount of certain elements. So heat and forces applied, that's the same thing with a metal. To get that purified gold, what? The heat and force is applied. And then what? That's to have a role to play, like I read in Isaiah 32 as well. That's going to be the means by which safety, a covering from the winds, the destruction to come, is going to be. Revelation 21 and 2, it says, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from that power out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and the Most High himself shall be with them and be their power. So the tabernacle's with men. That's the means by which all this is going to go down. Just as, hey, Yahweh Shah was set up, that's, those, the elect, the 144,000 is going to be men, the then you're gonna have in the 1/3 women. But then what? It's through the men, because it says what? The women will be saved through childbearing. That's their lot. For men, it's what? Being refined, being purified, and then utilizes the tools of salvation, right? So yeah, that's the whole modern conception is completely alien from that. But it's been done intentionally. But hey, the Lord and his men, they're basically gonna endure, they're gonna be built up to the level to be ready for what? Enduring the times to come. Even the awareness, some of the faith that these times are gonna happen, the hour of temptation, the time of trouble, these things are gonna come. Hey, got faith, we're gonna be saved out. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom.